And there's intimacy on the radio, and there's naturalness on the radio that can never be replicated on TV. The marvelous resurgence of radio as a political force in this country.
News-related radio programming is evolving.
There's a huge hole in our dialogue that can be filled by the synthesis of traditional radio and the freedom that comes from a live podcast. You're about to experience Cowboy State Politics live. Here we go. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to another fantastic installment from very, very high above all the puerile and insipid forms of Wyoming mainstream media. This is the one and only Cowboy State Politics. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the program. Happy Friday. I have to tell you, my friends, I have not been in such a good mood as I am this morning in a long time. And so we're going to do things, obviously, we're doing things a little bit different this morning. We had the super special investigative committee last night that lasted 4 grueling hours. And the best way that I can sum it up is that every lie that they have, not every lie, but most of the lies that they have perpetrated over the last 3 weeks, the media's involvement, the liberal, as my friend Rebecca and my business partner Rebecca calls them, counterfeit Republicans, all of it was exposed for everybody to see. And so on today's program, we're going to talk with Rebecca, and we're just going to kind of run down what happened in the meeting yesterday. And it's, my friends, they succeeded in one thing. They have finally convinced me of the virtues of some government business development, namely ours. So for a solid 20 minutes, they played an interview that Rebecca and I did in its entirety with the branding on it. And the best part of it is they're so dumb that they thought that was going to help them. That they really thought that a transparent interview of me being very critical with you. I think your husband Jonathan's probably still mad at me.
No, he's not.
But that they thought that would actually help them. But anyway, they played that for a solid 20 minutes. And every witness after witness, even the redcoats, even Lloyd Larson and a couple of others were like, nope, didn't see anything. Nope, I didn't see that. Nope, that didn't happen. Oh, yeah, I saw her on the floor, but I didn't hear anything. I half expected some of them to make up stories, but there again, they were under oath. So anyway, enough of me going on. What I'd like to do first is, Rebecca, why don't you just take a few minutes and give us your impression of what happened yesterday, and then we'll kind of get into some of the particulars.
Well, I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw the amount of witnesses. I think there were, 14 of them or something?
Yeah, you were number 14.
And I thought, what are they going to talk about? You know, I was just really surprised to see so many people getting dragged in there. And it's just like you said, people were saying, I didn't see anything, I didn't hear anything.
Because there wasn't anything.
Right. What were they supposedly saying? So that was a little grueling, and they kept going through all of these videos and, photos of me on the floor and everybody on the floor. And all I could do was think about, if you just asked me if I was down there, if you just asked me if I handed 4 people a check, I would have said yes. We don't have to go through this,
Sure.
It was such a huge waste of time. But I think some things got flushed out. For example, Representative Liz Storer, she saw me hand someone a check, and that was Monday. She attended my event Tuesday night at the Little America. She
even videoed it.
I kept seeing her video me, so I know, and I found it interesting that she didn't produce that video. Instead, she produced about a 3-page document of what she observed. Did you see that?
Well, that's her impressions, right? Because
Right.
what she was doing is she witnessed you not doing anything wrong. And so if she had produced the video that she did at your event, which interestingly enough, you probably did invite her, just didn't know
I
it.
invited everyone.
Yeah, she's
Everyone's
probably
in.
on your mailing list.
Yeah.
But had she produced the video, it would have shown that you didn't do anything wrong, and you didn't. And I mean, that was very clear yesterday.
Well, and and also she could have talked to Speaker Nyman at that event or John Baer. I think there was probably 50 legislators there, but she had 2 minutes to talk and she never mentioned it. And then they pull this stunt Wednesday on the floor. It's really weird to watch Mike Yen and Stewart try to be the victims in all this.
Yeah,
That's what they're
it's
doing
been
now.
fun.
And so I'm glad that story got out about Liz. Another thing that was interesting is multiple members of the committee asked Provenza, and all of them, why didn't you follow the procedures? Are you aware of the ethics procedures? And Provenza said, well, it's my First Amendment right to say or do whatever she
Not
wants.
when you're.
And I thought, well, what about my First Amendment right and Don Grasso's First Amendment right to give a campaign donation?
Yes.
See, so I don't have a First Amendment right, but now she does. But she's in the legislation, and they voted on the joint rules that
She
didn't
agreed
follow.
to them.
Right. And then the last thing that I thought was really interesting, and I sincerely mean this, I've never spoken to Representative Knapp a day in my life. Honestly, I feel like I'm a little bit scared of him because he's always so serious. And when he revealed during his testimony that the LSO director, Matt Obrick, refused to help him with an amendment on Provenza's bill,
Yep.
I thought that was unbelievable. And he wanted to go on the record on that. I wish the committee, the one negative thing I'll say about the committee.
Well, you may not want to, but I got a bunch of stuff.
Okay, well, why didn't somebody ask? Because what we learned is after Provenza took the pictures, then she showed it to the clerk on the floor to verify that she saw what she saw. And then she said she gave it to the LSO director. Well, when was that? So you're telling me the LSO director maybe knew about this Monday night, Tuesday, didn't say anything to anybody, helped her draft a resolution on the floor, and then they sprung it on us Wednesday. So why didn't they ask him when he became aware of that? But I went after him in my 2-minute closing statement that they shut me down on. And, I'm not mad at the committee. The committee did not ask to be on the committee. I appreciate them taking the time, 4 hours last night, going over this. This would not have had to happen if Provenza had followed the rules. So
Yes.
the members of the committee I have no ill will towards them. They were simply tasked with this job because of Provenza.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point because there's obviously some people that they would rather be doing something else, right?
Yeah.
No, I don't think that any of them really wanted, and well, maybe there was a couple of them that really wanted to sit in an investigative committee for 4 hours and go through this thing. And so I don't think that really any of them wanted to initially, but there were people on that committee that absolutely had an agenda. Mm-hmm. And it came through pretty clearly, I think. Now, I think that there's a couple of conservatives on there that they were absolutely willing to make sure that the meeting ran as it was supposed to, mm-hmm. and that important points that, and again, I've got a lot of thoughts about this whole thing, but one of the reasons why it was important to have Scott Heiner and Ruben Tarver on there is so that points that were not being brought out by other members, they could. So, for example, one of those was Scott Heiner continually saying, so, Representative, did anything that happened out there, did you observe any law breaking or any, and of course I'm paraphrasing here, but did you think that any of this was breaking the law? And then he would say, well, okay, so now if that had happened, today or tomorrow or whatever, would that be breaking a rule? And because the House of Representatives had passed a rule that no campaign checks, mm-hmm. on the floor. And then it was, well, yeah, now it would be, but then it wasn't. Yeah. And so with Heiner and with Ruben Tarver on there, and I think that to his credit, I think that Ivan Posey did what he was tasked to do. he asked some critical questions, I think, but you could tell that he was trying to be genuinely fair. I mean,
He's
I
a
really
nice
like
guy.
him.
I mean, I hear he's a really nice guy.
So one hand,
What was up with Marilyn Connolly, though? Because she kept talking about that email from Eyes on Wyoming where I was talking about the 110,000 scam. And she kept saying Eyes on Wyoming deflection or something. And I'm sitting there thinking, why do you keep asking about that email? Like, did you catch what that
oh
was
yeah.
about?
So the check heard round the world, right? So she was trying to use that as to try to implicate the representatives that were involved in this whole thing that you handed a campaign donation to. She was trying to use it as a tool to implicate them, but she didn't realize that it didn't have anything to do with any of it. And the very first time, and I don't remember who it was that she asked, but she asked one of the representatives, did you open this email? And I think he said, yeah, well, I opened it Sunday. But I didn't know anything about this. I didn't find it until I went looking for emails from Rebecca Bextel. But then she kept on asking it, several times during that meeting, and I want to talk about this more after the break, but several times during that meeting, the answer should have been from people testifying, asked and answered. They kept asking the exact same question over and over.
Unbelievable.
And the reason they do that is to try to trip up the person that's testifying, catch them saying something different. But of course, there's nothing here, so there was nothing to trip them up on. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to continue with this. There's lots more to talk about with this whole check thing. So we'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back.
Yeah, I know. The weather seems to be toying with us. 60 one day, 42 the next, and pretty soon, my friends, those 6s and 4s are going to turn into 3s and 2s. Though we all want to avoid it, that white stuff is coming, my friends, and you will be shoveling the walk in it. It's cold, it's unpleasant, and nobody likes to do it. But you could make it just a little bit more comfortable and prevent your feet from turning into a giant block of ice. In fact, you could keep them nice and warm and toasty, and your toes will never even know that they're outside. The rest of you may be frozen solid, but at least your feet won't be. To make all this happen, you just need a pair of socks from the Buffalo Wool Company. They are the finest socks that I've ever put on my feet. To get you a pair, go to their website, thebuffalowoolco.com. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Are you one of those guys that listen to the president just a little bit too closely, and now you're tired of winning? Are you getting the feeling that there's been way too many good things happening in our country, and you just can't take it anymore? Well, if you are, and you think you should follow Rosie O'Donnell's example and get the heck out of Dodge, you need to call Rebecca Bextel at eXp Realty. She'll make those foreign country living ideas a reality for you. All you have to do is call 307-699-3519, and she'll make sure some freedom-loving, red-blooded American will now live in the home that you no longer want. If you want to sell your house, or if you want to buy one that's way better than the house you have right now, give Rebecca a call. Again, her phone number is 307-699-3519.
I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day, don't you? Well, I can show you how. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way.
Cowboy State Politics is only going to get stronger. This program is only going to continue to expand. Cowboy State Politics Live, the Cowboy State Politics Podcast, the fantastic open range record. If you haven't looked at that, you should. One more little ad I didn't get included in there is on April 18th, the Campbell County Republican women are going to be hosting the Babylon Bees Kyle Mann. You know, there's a lot of funny things that happen in politics, and we don't laugh about them enough. And so the Campbell County Republican women, they have decided that they're going to have a really funny guy. So it's April 18th over in Gillette. And if you want more information, go to campbellcountyrepublicanwomen.com. It's going to be a funny show. I'm going to try to clear my calendar and go to it. I think everybody should. And so if you want to laugh, if you want to have a good time, April 18th, Kyle Mann over in Gillette. All right. So yesterday in the meeting, well, there's so many good, fun things to talk about that I can hardly stand it. But one of them was your closing statement, Rebecca. And this is just my opinion, but Art Washut had been conveniently forgetting about the 2-minute closing statements that everybody was entitled to. And when Rebecca gets done testifying, Art Washut says something to the effect of, "Thank you, Ms. Bextel." And then I don't know if you said, whoa, I got 2 minutes here.
At the same time that Representative Heiner was telling him, I was saying, wait a minute, I've got a statement here.
Yeah, hold on a minute. So we're going to play you just a little bit of Rebecca's closing statement. And it is, after everything that you've been through, Rebecca, I think that this was the least that they could do. But of course, your testimony was pretty transparent. I think you were probably way more open than a lot of people would be, but that's just you, right? You got nothing to hide.
Right.
And so, your personality showed through. And the funny part about it was just watching from the background, right? You're just being yourself, telling the truth. And the committee members are looking at each other going like, are we really doing this? I mean, is this happening?
I think when I was talking about converting the bartender at the Little America to a
Yeah,
Republican,
that was funny.
Nobody knew what to do. But, it was the truth. The bartender flipped Republican by attending the event from Eyes on Wyoming. And
Yeah.
So anyway, I was like, I'm not lobbying people. I'm just bringing awareness to some issues.
Well, and you weren't. And so, because I was there, and by the way, Art Washut, if you're listening, the next time you think about throwing my name around a committee meeting, maybe you should ask me. I was sitting there, and my friends, I have to tell you, there were other people that had their names thrown around, like Mr. Grasso.
Oh, yeah.
But over and over, and by the way, thanks for the compliment about your portfolio that I built you.
Oh, I love that book. It's one of my favorite things I own.
But anyway, my name was thrown around a lot, and I was sitting there going, oh, please, just ask me. Please just say, well, Mr. Iverson, your name has been thrown around a lot here. Would you like to testify? And I had already rehearsed it in my head. And I was going to tell them, if you really think that's wise for you, I would love to. But my name got, and here in just a little bit, we're going to show you one of the only things the committee succeeded in doing. But first, I want to play for you a little bit of Rebecca's closing statement. And so here we go. Just take a listen to this.
Well, at least I'm consistent.
I feel like I have to.
Ms. Bishop, we'll give you 2 minutes to talk about anything that we haven't asked about that you haven't spoken to specific to this matter that's in front of the committee.
I have a couple of surprises in here. Wyoming, we deserve better. If the Democrats had followed the rules, this would have been over in a matter of hours. But some in our legislature have tried to derail your budget session, and I believe the LSO director, Matt Obrick, is also in on it. When did you see the photos? The real scandal, Democrats are not the threat because we know their intentions. They plan to change the very fabric of Wyoming if we let them. The real scandal that affects Wyoming is this. We have Democrats masquerading as Republicans in our Wyoming legislature. These counterfeit Republicans were elected into office on the 23 planks of the Republican platform, yet they are doing the bidding of Democrats. Yes, sir, I'm getting back to 1,500. I've got it. These people need to be run out of office, and I plan to help. I passed
Ms.
out
Bexel,
15.
I don't think this is specific to this
I'm
investigation.
yes,
getting
it
back to
is, Art.
$1,500 checks right here.
You-
I passed out $1,500 checks from a donor in full transparency. There is not a single legislator in this Capitol that I believe can be compromised for $1,500.
Well
But
said.
apparently, I think better of all of you than some of your colleagues do. I have uncovered housing scams,
Okay, so there's lots more to that. But Rebecca, why don't you just take a few minutes and just tell me what was going through your head. Why do you think what you had, and okay, you never ask a question you don't know the answer to, but why do you think that your closing statement was so important to be heard?
Well, because I haven't spoken to the media other than to you, only because they don't report the truth. There are so many things that they are trying to deflect off of what happened. And I think they're also they're coming after me because of all of the housing scams I've uncovered, the property tax exemptions all over the state. I have stepped into the middle of millions of dollars.
Hundreds of millions.
That's true. Millions of dollars that people have enriched themselves all over the state. And so I just wanted a chance to say, here's why I think this is going on, but they don't want to hear that. It's amazing to me that Governor Gordon gives a private company $100 million. There's no hearing on that.
Yeah.
We don't even wonder who got paid off, who's getting paid, nothing. But you're telling me I hand Representative Darren McCann a check for $1,500 from a donor in Teton County, and look what the state
And they tried to destroy his life.
That's right. And he does have rights, and I have rights too, and I will be pursuing my rights. Some of these people almost seem obsessed. Like Tom Lubnow, he's just a creepy guy, Ooh, is he married?
I don't know. I feel sorry for her if he is.
I'd have a headache every night. But so he has. I'm sorry.
He's obsessed with you.
Yeah, he needs to go get a life. I mean, that guy, creep. But he said so much stuff that's not true.
Lots of it.
And I just have to sit, his piece this morning, I pushed myself through it. And he starts talking about how we need affordable housing. That's what this is about. I hope everybody can realize that.
No, it's not. Okay, so yes, you're right. But it's not really about affordable housing, because you've proven that even the Casper Housing Authority, the deal in Jackson, that all of them, they don't really care about getting poor people a place to live. That's not what it's about.
You don't even have to be poor to live there. They are trying they're trying to redesign who lives in Wyoming. I have uncovered where we are literally pulling in people from California to live in low-income housing, except you don't actually have to be low income. I hate to keep hammering this, but I showed the guy that moved from another state with $200,390 in his bank account, and technically he committed fraud because he said he was single and he was married.
Yeah.
Just crap like that all over the place. But what's going on is every time one of these projects go up, the developers get paid $1 million. That's the max that they can make, so that's what they get paid, $1 million. And
right off the top.
that is but they're just one of 6 people that get paid out on every
And let's
project.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think this is an important point. When the developers that Rebecca is talking about, it's not that they've picked up a hammer and driven a nail. It's not that they have unloaded a truck of lumber. It's not that they've even really done anything. Really, they're getting $1 million to literally just do the paperwork.
Talk. Yeah.
And it's all our money. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is not a question of this big time. And when we, generally speaking, when we hear the word developer, like when a guy puts up a subdivision, okay, you see that happen all the time. Mm-hmm. Somebody buys a piece of property and they decide, and you're a realtor, you know how this works.
Yes, I do.
They decide, all right, we're going to subdivide this and we're going to build some houses and we're going to make a pile of money. Right. That is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a company, and one of the biggest ones is Blue Line Development. Uh-huh. They get public property, and it's this huge, giant, complicated scam that, frankly, I don't even understand. But this huge...
And they're counting on that. They're counting on people not understanding. I highly recommend everybody get on the Open Range Record and scroll down, because it's a little bit of an older article, and look at, I think the title is something like Lawyers and Town Town Hall, something like
Casper,
that.
something like that. We'll push it up to the top.
But what David is saying is true. These people, this isn't where they go buy a piece of land, they're investing their capital, and I hope they make a profit, okay? I want to see people do well. In the case of this scam I've uncovered, not one penny is put in from these people.
Well, in Jackson, it was $100.
Yeah, well, I mean, because you can't have a contract without consideration, which means money. But I'm saying, in a $24 million project, they put in $100. It's fully taxpayer funded. So the $1 million they get is from the taxpayers. And the other thing that sucks is the taxpayers take all the downside. So in the case of Liberty Square Apartments in Natrona County, the building started falling apart 5 years after it was built. The liability was so great that they just dumped it off on the taxpayers. So we take all the downside. We never get the upside. It does, and we're the ones putting in all the equity, taking all the risk. This is a scam.
It is, and I don't want to lose this point that yes, taxpayers are being hurt in a big way. I mean, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yes,
this is not a small deal, but really the people that are being hurt are the folks that move into these places, and then the management or whatever you want to call them, people running the joint, they say, hey, you know what? We can raise the rent here, but we just got to get rid of this guy. And so there are people that are really, really getting hurt in this. And you're going to have, you're putting a documentary together, right?
Yes, I went to San Diego last weekend and talked to a disabled veteran's family. What we did to this man is unbelievable. Kicking him out, falsely accusing him, defaming him. These people have a lawsuit just waiting to happen. I can see where the law firm for the Casper Housing Authority refers to the Cheech and Chong incident. This guy he successfully took 4 drug tests, never had drugs. The drug dog couldn't even find drugs in his house. They kept accusing him of smelling like marijuana. That's all he ever got accused of.
Maybe he likes patchouli oil.
And the drug dog, I mean, you name it, drug tests, everything. The arbitrator for his hearing was always like the front desk lady or the human resources at Casper Housing Authority.
Clearly unbiased.
Yeah, the packet says it should be a third-party independent person. But, why they were trying to get him out of there is because they could get a higher paying tenant. That's it. This guy would have been homeless if his family couldn't pay for him. They have plenty of stories of veterans who are now homeless because of this. It's a scam, but let's get back to the investigative committee here.
No, this is important here because what you have uncovered is a scam, and I've looked at this, my friends, and I'm telling you, this entire thing is a scam.
Awful.
I mean, it is. I'm sure in some weird way, it's probably technically legal, some way, but there are parts of it that sure as heck look illegal. I mean, and I'm not a lawyer, but it looks bad. And so this is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Rebecca starts digging into it. And I don't know how far down this road you want to go because this whole issue is not over yet. But the folks that are opposed to ending the housing mitigation fees that are not just happening in Teton County, that's another bullcrap lie that the media has been pushing. There are other communities in Wyoming that see what Teton County is doing and says, wow, that's a pretty good source of revenue there. We can do that. Now, I don't know of any that have actually implemented it, but I've absolutely heard conversations about it. But the folks that are opposed to it are the very people that were absolutely in favor of this investigation, of demonizing you for it. And what they did, and let's get back to, let me hold on here. Tell you what, this is kind of a longer topic, so let's go ahead and take our second break, and then we're going to dig into kind of the process that how this thing went down and how wrong it is.
Can I make one quick comment about John Bear? He has been unfairly harassed during this process.
Absolutely, they all have.
Nothing wrong. They keep talking about why is he worried about mitigation fees? Well, because he believes in the Constitution.
Believes in private property rights.
And I will go ahead and say right now, John Bear is probably the most popular person in Teton County among the donors. They love that guy. He is such a hard worker. Good luck trying to run him out of office. The one guy that will have absolutely no problems raising money for a re-election is John Bear. I mean, he's like a celebrity. He'll actually show up in Teton County and sit through meetings in our city council and stuff. I mean, that guy's a hero. So good luck going after him.
Well, and that's another thing here. See, I try to take a break and then we get on another topic. That's all right. So it is absolutely absolutely your First Amendment right to donate to a candidate. I don't care what Governor Gordon says or what the legislature. Well, the legislature, they can pass rules for their own chamber. But Governor Gordon, he doesn't get to say where campaign donations are given. That is your First Amendment right under Citizens United. It is absolutely protected free speech, and the governor doesn't get to tell you what you can and can't, which candidate you can and can't give money to on property that you pay for, which, by the way, Mark, I would like to know where you were. Where were you when you initiated a $150,000 wire transfer to the Prosperity and Commerce PAC? What a stupid name. Where were you? Were you in your office? Were you at the residence? By the way, you live on state ground. So where were you? Did you get in your pickup and did you drive around and then initiate it?
Exactly. That's why I said he needed to be in airspace. He's going to have to be in federal airspace if he writes another check, because he's, he can't be sitting in the Capitol. He can't be in his office. But, Ivan Posey, he kept saying, have you announced your campaign yet? Well, how are you getting campaign checks? Well, Senator Mike Kangaroo got a donation from the Teton County lobbyist right before the session started. He hasn't announced re-election. As a matter of fact, I've heard he's moving to his house in Palm Springs that he already bought, and Liz Storr is going to run for his seat. So why is the Teton County lobbyist, but they don't want to talk about
It's all
like
of
that.
them.
Yeah. Tara Nethercott got money from the Teton County lobbyist. So did Eric Barlow. I mean, and this is all recently.
And you can see it.
Right. And that's who's trying to stop this. And it's
Yep.
like, we can go to your break.
All right, let's go and take a break. And when we come back,
You got to pay the bills.
yeah, we gotta, somebody's got to pay for this adventure.
Make sure that you subscribe and follow the Cowboy State Politics podcast. You can do that from the website, cowboystatepolitics.com, or anywhere that you get your podcasts. That way, you'll make sure that you won't miss a single episode of Cowboy State Politics. Hunting season. Right about now, you're off with all of your pals, stalking the big gigantic elk or buck mule deer that you've been thinking about all summer long. And your lovely wife is at home, probably enjoying her time without you. But soon, my friend, all of that is going to come to a screeching halt. And I want you to think about just one little thing. She's able to park her car inside the garage because all of your hunting crap is with you right now. Now, if you'd like the marital bliss to continue, I suggest you make a call to Marcos and Jesse at Morton Buildings. Their phone number is 307-674-2532. They can build you a garage or a barn or any other type of metal structure for you to store all of your toys in so that your wife can continue parking inside the garage. And you can avoid sleeping on the couch for the next month or two. Call Morton Buildings. Their phone number is 307-674-2532. Get them to build you a metal building before it's too late.
Welcome back to the program, Cowboy State Politics Live. I'm sitting with my awesome business partner, Rebecca Bextel, and we've got this special edition of Cowboy State Politics Live after the super extra special investigative committee around this whole dumb check controversy. I'm not going to call it use the phrase the media uses because it's stupid. Where I'd like to go now is just kind of talk about the sequence of events, because I think that this is really important how this whole thing went down. And so you had your photo session for Carly Provenza, which, by the way, Carly, you should just give up being a college professor and you should just go into photography.
Oh, God, she's a college professor?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if she still is. She was at the University of Wyoming. But anyway, Pulitzer Prize photograph. Very well done, Carly. But none of what you did, and this became clear in the hearing yesterday, none of what you did was illegal. It's absolutely protected speech. And they can say, and even I don't think that it looked that great. Okay.
You can have that opinion.
That's fine. And you and I did an interview, which, by the way, we should probably do that before the end of the show. Actually, you know what? Let's do that right now. So like I said, the one thing that the committee, well, there was a couple things that they achieved. One of which was convincing me that a little government business development is not a bad thing sometimes, especially when it's our business. So what they did is they played the interview that you and I did on the Open Range record. And I don't remember if that was like a Thursday or when we did the interview. But it was shortly after this whole thing blew up. And, you and I talked about it and you said you wanted to do an interview. And I think I replied, I don't know if that's a good idea. And you said, no, I want to do it. And I think I may have told you, okay, you better come with it because I'm not going easy. This is going to be a solid interview. And that's what we did, which, by the way, I don't know of another journalist anywhere. I don't know of another media company owner. I don't know of anybody that would have sat through that interview given everything that was going on. But you and I made a commitment when we started this business, the Open Range Record, that we were going to report the news and we were going to do it fairly.
Yes.
And, hey, man, if your friends screw up, yeah, you're still friends with them, but you screwed up and we probably need to tell people about it. So that was our commitment and that's what we did. So yesterday in the committee, thinking that it was going to harm you, they played the entire interview. So thanks for the advertisement, guys. We really appreciate it. So check this out. This is just the beginning part of what the committee played yesterday. This is unbelievable that they did this.
Listen in.
And business partner, Rebecca Bextel.
Hey, David.
Welcome to the program, Rebecca. How are we doing this evening?
I'm actually doing pretty good, thank you.
Okay, all right.
I know a lot of people don't want to hear that.
Well, I don't know about that.
Stuff.
Can we increase the volume at all?
That I think we got to talk about. And let's just kind of, where I'd like to start, I think, is just, there were several articles written the last couple of days about a check that you handed to a...
Okay, so hold on just a second. So again, this is happening in the middle of the Special Investigative Committee. So they're playing this interview for all to see, thinking that, that it was going to harm you. And I mean, I about lost it. I got to tell you. I mean, I almost busted out laughing. And I looked around the room and the first person that looked at me was a reporter from the Cowboy, and their face was just priceless. It was like, oh my God, I can't believe that they're doing this. So yeah, this is all going on in the committee, and so let's continue. There's just a minute or two left.
Legislator on the floor of the House. There's a picture on WildFile that taken by Carly Provenza, and to her credit, she should have been a photographer. She has a knack for getting the perfect picture at the right time. I can never pull that off. I always miss it. So I mean, that's kind of the broad strokes. But why don't you take a few minutes and just tell our viewers what happened?
I'm sorry, this is not going to be sexy or glamorous. So basically, as everybody knows, I like to raise money for conservative candidates. I've never been paid to fundraise. I'm not a lobbyist or anything like that. Well, one of my guys here in Teton County, he said, like, we were just talking about politics a couple of weeks ago, and he said, well, who's in the toughest fights? And I said, and I just started listing off candidates. And so this guy, he doesn't write checks himself. He is the most loving, generous guy, absolutely salt of the earth, fabulous person. And so he had his assistant send me a few checks, and the assistant didn't want to mail them to individual addresses. Also, we all know that the legislators are going to be in session for the next 30 days. And so I just offered to drive them down to Cheyenne, and when I saw somebody, I would hand them to them. So I did.
Okay, so it goes on for like the next, I don't know, 12 or 13 minutes. Right. So we are going to talk about the timeline, but I don't want to leave out Mr. Grasso out of this whole thing, because this is another big issue. His name got thrown around way more than mine did yesterday. Mm-hmm. Not more than yours. Sorry, you were the star of that. But let's just talk about Don for a minute. He wrote these campaign checks.
Mm-hmm. Not really. His assistant.
Well, his
did,
assistant
right?
did. Excuse me. His money. Assistant wrote the checks. Mm-hmm. And that was the end of it. But there was a lot of bad things they did to that guy yesterday.
Well, and if I could just say, and I apologized to Don during the hearing, and I apologized because he did not deserve this.
No.
On December 30th, so he has two assistants. He has like a body person that goes with him everywhere, and then he has someone who like handles his paperwork and stuff. And so that lady has worked for him for 25 years. Mr. Grasso used to have a really big company in Wisconsin, and so she still lives there. Okay, so December 30th, she comes into town every year at Christmas to Jackson Hole, and at his home in Jackson Hole, he has homes in other places as well. We were sitting there at a dinner on December 30th, and that's when we started talking about the checks. And he said, okay, I'll write 10. We talked about people in tough fights. He doesn't know these people per se. And so I was supposed to send his assistant an email with the names. So she flies back to Wisconsin the next day or the day after that. And normally I would just get the checks like overnighted. And I show up at his house a couple days later for something else, and he's on speakerphone with her, and that is when we realized
there's
she's
something
having
bad
a
going
medical emergency. I just kind of threw myself in the conversation, and I was like, Amy, you need to go to the emergency room. And Don ended up getting her enrolled in Pinnacle Care. I think it cost him like $35,000. She got excellent care, but she was in the hospital for a week, and then she had a tough recovery. So when she finally recovered from that, then she mails the checks, and that's when we had those horrible storms. And so it's supposed to be overnighted, and it bounced around America for 8 days, all over the place. And then the day they got here, I went to Tulum, Mexico with my husband for 4 days or 5 days. So I get back on Friday. The checks were there at my house when I got back. And so what am I supposed to do on Friday? Mail them to legislators who are in the session for the next 6 weeks? So that's why I brought them. And Mr. Grasso had nothing to do with that. Now, I told Amy, I'll just take care of delivering them. But Mr. Grasso, I tried to say this in the hearing yesterday. This is like a piece of sand for he is a very charitable man. He sponsors, for example, 32 kids in the poorest district in America. I think he just gave that school like $5 million, okay, to help these. It's 100% black kids. The poor, he was just telling me the other day, the maximum that anybody earns that he pays their scholarship bill is $13,000. The minimum the parents earn is $3,000 a year. Okay, he is all about helping people like that. He brings these kids out to Jackson Hole every summer. One time I had 6 of them stay at my house because he was maxed out on space. But these are scholarship kids. He buys their school uniforms. I mean, he is a generous man. He just gave $1 million. I had asked him to make a donation to the Grand Teton Music Festival because they're trying to redo their music hall, and he gave $1 million to that. So if anyone thinks that he's sitting around here worried about $1,500 checks, they're crazy.
Yeah.
And he's never talked to these representatives. He didn't even know there was a housing mitigation bill. He didn't know any of that. He wants to save the historic Teton County Fairgrounds. He loves the Jackson Hole Rodeo. As a matter of fact, he's offered to pay for infrastructure if they want to, put in more seating and stuff. So I just felt like this was extremely unfair to Mr. Grasso.
Absolutely, it was.
And then they put his checks publicly with all of his personal information, didn't redact that, didn't redact the text messages I had to produce with his assistant about her medical emergency. I just think Matt Obrick, he's got a problem.
Yeah, he
There
does.
is something going on there.
So one quick thing about Mr. Grasso. And so you mentioned that he brings these kids out to
Yes.
Jackson Hole. And one of the first things that he does, and I think that it is so Wyoming, and I think that it is so cool. So one of the first things that he does is he takes the kids to the custom hat shop that is in downtown Jackson Hole, which it's a really cool shop. And if you know, we tend to have this impression of Jackson that everything you buy there is super, super expensive. Okay, a lot of things are, but you can walk into this hat store and it's no more expensive than if you were to go to King Ropes in Sheridan. But now if you buy a custom hat, yeah, it's more expensive. But generally speaking, I bought my hat there.
No, actually, those hats are quite expensive.
Okay, well, what I'm saying is it's no different than any other
Oh,
store.
yeah.
Okay, now here's the lesson. He takes the kids in there and he buys them a custom hat.
Mm-hmm.
And the lesson is for somebody who has really never had anything nice,
Right.
that they never had somebody buy them something that is, just not extravagant, but just something that's nice. And the lesson is that he teaches them how to take care of the hat, and how to make sure that it lasts for a really long time. And it's just, here's how you take care of something. And I think that's just one small little thing that he does. But he is a gigantic philanthropist, and it's not just in Wyoming; it's all across the country. And the only thing he did was find some conservative legislators and wanted to give them each $1,500 for their campaign. That's the only thing that he did. And the media and these representatives and a lot of other people connected to this drug his name through the mud, and it is absolutely wrong.
And these kids that he brings out every summer, they've never left their district. Okay, they've gone nowhere. And Mr. Grasso also has a house in Montana, and so he takes these kids between Montana and Jackson Hole every summer. It's unbelievable. He takes them to the rodeo. He gets them suited up in Western. I take pictures every year. I've got some pictures with the guys. But we'll have dinner, and then I'll go over there for dinner, and we have really interesting conversations with these kids. Like, for example, one time I said, why aren't you against closing the border? The illegal immigrants aren't running Don Grasso out of work. They're running people without skills out of work.
Yes.
That affects people in your district. And they'll just sit there and say, wait, what? And we'll just have the most amazing conversations with these kids that nobody even knows to talk to them about. And Mr. Grasso has changed people's lives. There's
Yes.
no doubt about it. And you know what else about the guy is he's a fiercely loyal friend. Somebody with his kind of wealth, and he knows everybody. I mean, he could tell you, he teaches me so much about business. He can tell you stories about Sam Walton and like all these things. I mean, the guy's a total badass. But when he has dinner parties at his house, he has the guy that makes the custom cowboy hats there.
Yeah.
He has a waitress. Like, it's normal people. And he's over there opening $400 bottles of wine. And people aren't even used to this. But he is fiercely, if you are his friend, he is fiercely loyal. And he has been fiercely loyal to me and my family. And I just wanted to give him an apology. He did not deserve any of this.
No, he didn't. And the Democrats in this, they had no regard to what they were doing to people's lives. The legislators they accused of bribery, which they absolutely did.
Yes.
Carly Provenza, in her opening statement, she doesn't say the word bribery. She says Article 3, Section 42 and 43 in the Constitution, which those relate to bribery. So let's go down the timeline here.
Okay.
So Carly takes that photograph of you. The next day, what happens?
Liz Storr also saw me hand the checks. Nothing happened the next day. Liz came to my party, actually videoed me at my event, but didn't produce the video. She produced her typed out recording of what happened. And then I'm sitting in the House and the Senate chambers. By the way, if everybody would look at the Open Range record, there is an article about Senate File 89. please pay attention to those senators that did not vote for that housing exemption. So you have to pay more in property tax because wealthy East Coast investors aren't paying anything, okay, for these massive 100-unit complexes in Natrona County on 7 acres. These people should be paying some serious property tax. They're not paying a penny. Look at who did not think we should pay tax. By the way, that's also the same list of the people in the Senate I'm running out of office.
Okay, so no, I don't want. Yeah, you're absolutely right about all that, but I don't want this point to get lost.
Okay.
So the photograph was taken Monday evening. They kept repeating. I think it was 5:20 in the evening. Whatever. So Tuesday, the following day, nothing happens. So this thing is so egregious. This is such a terrible thing that Carly Provenza witnessed that she doesn't do anything with leadership. She doesn't bring it to the attention of the House Speaker, which, by the way, is in the rules that she agreed to. That's Joint Rule 22-1. But she doesn't do any of that.
She doesn't call the sheriff. If you see someone abusing a child, you can't take a picture and send it to WildFile. You've got to call the police, okay?
Yeah.
So she
Nothing.
was in a weird situation because they're accusing me of bribery, but no one thought to call the cops. So then we had the sheriff that announced an investigation via Facebook.
Okay, we're not quite there yet.
Okay,
You're
okay.
right. I know there's a lot of
It's crazy.
there's a
okay.
lot of moving parts to this.
So then I'm sitting in the House chambers watching Senate File 89 get shot down, and all of a sudden Senate 141, House Bill 141 is on the floor.
This is on a Wednesday.
Yep. So Darren McCann, as we know now, texted me and said, "Hey, your bill's up." And when I walked into the chambers, the entire room turned around and looked at me, and I thought, "What's going on?" I haven't even asked anyone to vote for this bill. Like, why is everyone looking at me? So I go sit down, and this guy sitting beside me said, "You just got accused of robbery on the House floor." I thought I was dreaming, like I
Yeah.
was in an alternate universe, like I'm in a dream. I need to wake up now. I said, bribe? Who? I couldn't even think of who I'm bribing because I haven't asked a single legislator to vote for this bill.
And that became very clear yesterday.
And the only person that I talked to about it was Representative John Baer, Teton County's hero, because this old school rancher had asked me about the bill. And I said, well, I think John Baer sponsored it. Let me call him and ask. And so that's the only person I've ever talked to about this for this year. I hammered it enough last year. And so, so then I'm accused of bribery. And another interesting thing was WyoFile had grabbed me that morning and said, "Did you pass out checks on the floor?" And I said, "None of your business," and just walked off. Well, why was WyoFile asking me about it before it was even told to anyone else? I thought, what's this about? So this is a total setup.
Oh yeah. So here's another thing we found out yesterday. So Carly Provenza, instead of going to the House Speaker, which is in the rules she agreed to, and I don't care what Matt Obrick says, all those people voted on these rules.
Right.
But anyway, so instead of, and I think that this was Carly's testimony, Carly and Liz Storr. So here's what happened. She takes the picture, and then instead of going immediately to the House Speaker, she goes to Lloyd Larson. Lloyd Larson looks at it and he says, "Oh, wow, I think you need to talk to the clerk." Whatever. And so Carly goes and talks to the clerk, and Katie Talbot tells her, and this is, do not let this point get lost. The clerk, the chief clerk in the House, tells Carly Provenza to go to Matt Obricht, the head of the LSO. She doesn't tell her, you need to go to the Speaker. They all know the rules. Katie Talbot looks at the rules every single day.
Right.
She knows what they are. So she says, well, you need to go talk to Matt Obricht. But that's not exactly what Carly did. Instead, she went to Liz Storr and said, "Hey, Liz, look at these pictures I've got." And then WyoFile gets the picture. How does that work? By the way, as it relates to this entire thing, you need to pay attention to the open range record today. The next couple of days, frankly, because we have been following this story. As you can imagine, Rebecca owns half the company, but we have been following this story very closely. And if you'll notice, we have only reported the facts, and we haven't stayed at arm's length, but we've reported the facts. Well, we're gonna dump a couple of stories today that are just going to blow your mind.
Oh, I can't wait.
And pay attention, because the people that deserve to be held accountable, they are going to be held accountable, and it's coming today. So just pay attention. That's all I'm telling you.
Speaking of open range record, I would like to say how unfairly I felt Dawn Morcor was treated.
Oh,
she was
man.
called in as a witness. She didn't even know she was a witness. I actually saw the sheet and I said, Dawn, are you a witness? She's like, what? I said, you're supposed to be there on Thursday. She didn't even get the summons, so she showed up. And I was thinking, what did she witness? And the answer there was nothing. But they just kept hammering her. And I felt like
They tried to turn her into a liar.
Was it Martha Lawley that kept,
Lawley,
however you say her name. I felt like she was just kind of almost mean to Dawn.
She was.
So that seemed unfair. It just shows you how you can be harassed just for being friends with conservatives. I just want to say that.
No, I mean, this is if you wanted to see how dirty the Democrats and their allies in the Republican Party, the counterfeit Republicans, as you call them, the redcoats, the people who, man, go to evidence-based Wyoming and you can see exactly how Republican all these people are. Art Washit, I know you don't want to say too much about the committee. Art Washit votes with the Democrats way more.
Oh, does he?
Than the Republicans, way more. And it is obvious if you look at how they vote. Most of them vote with the Democrat Party 80% of the time. I mean, if it walks like a Democrat, if it talks like a donkey, and if it votes like one, it's a Democrat. And those people, they're Democrats. They just happen to have an R at the end of their name. But anyway, so let's get, ooh, man, there's so much stuff going on today.
I've never even thought of Mr. Washit or even knew he was a representative till he got appointed to this committee. I feel like, minus him cutting me off on my 2-minute, statement, I thought he treated me fairly, for sure. I tell you, Marilyn Connolly, I've been thinking this entire time she was a Democrat. I genuinely thought she was in the House as a Democrat. I was one time in Sheridan and watched the town hall, and they had all the legislators up there. I thought, that's so nice of them. They invited the Democrat to also talk. I seriously had no clue she was a Republican until I saw this committee and it had an R by her name. I thought, what? But I mean, she was nice.
Well, most of them were pretty nice.
Yeah.
But it was the questions that they asked. So real quick, and we've only got a couple of minutes left, and then we've got a lot of work to do today, but let's finish out the timeline. Okay? So Wednesday, and by the way, I didn't know any of this was happening until I walked into the House gallery. It must have been right after you did. And I get pulled aside. Rebecca just got accused of bribery on the House floor. And I'm like, what? Right. And so then Thursday happens. And at first, Wednesday, it was Mike Yen that basically made the accusation. Now, watching the video, I don't think he said the word bribery. I think what he did say though, was we need to vote down 141 right now because of this. Mm-hmm. Okay, so he insinuated that there was bribery going on. Well, then Thursday happens, and it's Carly Provenza, which, by the way, go to the Open Range Record and read the article. I think it's titled Provenza Yen with the help of Matt Obricht violate joint rules. I think that's the title of the article. But go to the Open Range Record. It's on there. So instead of Provenza going to the House Speaker, which is it's in the rules, and it is the long-standing established procedure. I have never seen it used any other way, and I've been watching the legislature. I've seen a lot of these investigations. Mm-hmm. So Thursday on the floor, she accuses you of bribery with a motion. This whole thing is created, and then the media goes into overdrive. And that piece there, the media is absolutely culpable.
David, doesn't it say something in the rules, though, about why you have to follow the procedures?
It does.
So that the innocent aren't dragged through the mud. I feel like Mr. Grasso and I certainly got dragged through the mud.
The very first thing says,
yeah,
this is why you do this. So, and I'm paraphrasing, but basically it says, so that people aren't innocently drugged through the mud.
Oops.
Oops. Well, they are now.
Yep.
So anyway, my friends, there is a lot to uncover here, and pay attention to the Open Range Record. Today, probably around noon, we're going to drop a couple stories that, like I said, the people that deserve to be held accountable will be. And
can we link to the YouTube video of the testimony? I would say the
Sure.
first half of it, or even 2/3, is nothing to see here. But I thought Representative Joe Webb and McCann and Knapp and even Nina Weber's testimony, because by the way, there's another victim in all of this.
Yeah, Nina Weber.
They are going after us on Saturday. I think they're trying to censure me, censure her, censure everybody.
They better not.
For her to simply have just been, Nina didn't know I was passing out checks. I didn't even know I was passing out checks. I just had them in the book, and I saw a representative, and I just handed her the check. I never thought anything of it. I don't know why in the world she's all of a sudden being censured for this, but I would recommend going back and watching it. It's going to really just show you the deep state. And I also would like to say, I apologize to Joe Webb and these guys for putting them through this.
You didn't put them through this.
Well, I am sorry that they're even having to go through this because I handed them a check on the floor. I honestly never dreamed after the session ended. I have to say, everything I do is transparent. I'm so into things being transparent, especially with my battle with the WCDA and all these public records acts. I don't ever try to hide anything I do like that. And so I just hope people, if you don't like the optics, don't blame them. They didn't even know what I was handing them. I just, some of them testified, they just saw this piece of paper and put it in their pocket and just kept going on with their life.
Yeah.
And so, they did not deserve this.
Nope. There's a lot of people that didn't deserve the treatment that they got. And those people that, are responsible, well, like I said, they're going to be held accountable. Pay attention to what's coming on the Open Range Record today. Don't miss tomorrow's installment of the Cowboy State Politics podcast. Of course, I'm not going to be able to resist going through all of this. So for now, my friends, from the depths of the Middle Swamp in Wyoming's capital of Cheyenne, I'm David Iverson, and this is Cowboy State Politics. Have a nice day, Redcoats.